Insurance is typically not something that is exciting, but I think it's going to be exciting today because it's really not about insurance. It's about how to basically protect yourself and to analyze your policies and to learn really a lot about the insurance and kind of the behind the scenes of how some of these things will really impact you, especially as laws have changed, et cetera. So without further ado, let me turn it over to Lee to kind of start the conversation. We're going to kind of pepper both Lee and Matt with questions throughout the presentation, but we'll get it started with you, Lee.
As far as a quick agenda review, we're going to start with an estate tax overview. We're going to then move into strategies for those who do not have either coverage or adequate coverage currently in place to handle the estate tax bill that is eventually coming. There we'll dovetail into those that have existing coverage with our premium optimization program, which is a tactical strategical management program that dives in and looks at existing programs, picks them apart, and then rebuilds them for the benefit of the family of significant wealth, the insured, to create more alpha for them and their heirs. And then finally, we're going to spend a few minutes on Conley, which just came down in early June, so about 2 months ago, from the Supreme Court, and how that affects wealth transfer and tax planning for business owners if they have a buy-sell, potentially how it can dovetail and what could be done to potentially fix that.
You know, Lee, I love that word alpha. You know, well, let's talk about being able to generate value from your conversations with your clients. So can we just kind of give a quick overview of what's happening on the estate tax side? I think a lot of people are pretty familiar with that, but let's give a quick overview.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea because all the ideas are going to tie back into that, and we're in a little unique window here since the TCJA happened. Matt's going to walk us through where we were, where we are, and then what the law says, most importantly, what the law says is going to happen January 1st of 2026.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. So to get to the current situation with regards to the federal estate tax, you have to go back to 2017 and the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, where the lifetime exemption, or the amount that a family or an individual can protect from their estate tax bill, doubled. Went from 5.6 per person to up to 11.1 per person, and then ongoing indexed for inflation, which takes us into today. Today, a single individual can protect $13.6 million from the estate tax. That number is doubled with proper planning for a married couple. And that current estate tax bracket, the top bracket, sits at 40%.
So flexibility, creativity, preserving the lifetime exemption, maximizing using insurance so that step up and basis assets can be preserved are certainly key. If we can tie in a wait and see strategy, which puts a Band-Aid on it now, but does something now, which can then be changed or enhanced later. The key really is going to be preserving the lifetime exemption. If you could, Matt, move to the next slide. And the way that we do that is we start with the additional bucket of money. Matt talked about 27 to potentially 28 million, which is the larger bucket of what a family can pass without paying taxes. But there's also $18,000 per year, per grantor, per donee that families can gift. And if we start with that, it's a reverse solve and sort of a backwards concept, but we believe it to be a better concept because it's saving for the wealth advisors, the CPAs, and the T&E attorneys that 27 to 28 million exemption. And let's just start with using that 18,000 and see what happens. So we'll look at one example on preserving the lifetime exemption for a survivorship husband and wife couple. We'll look at two wait and see strategies. We'll look at a flexibility to change your mind, actually using a permanent policy, and then we'll look at the relevance of premium finance and if that's still a viable option today. So preserving that lifetime exclusion, we had a recent family, husband and wife, 3 children, And if you multiply that out by 18,000, which in 2023 was 17, it's 18 now. Every couple of years that normally goes up. None of this comes out of that 27 to 28 million dollar current window that Matt reviewed earlier. They can gift 108,000 to the trust, and it picked up about 11 million, just shy of 11 million dollars of coverage for this husband and wife. Matt, if you want to slide over to the next slide. And
hey, Lee, I have a question for you too. I think a lot of people are familiar with the annual exclusion and how that really benefits people. But I think a lot of people don't fully think that through, like you said, working backwards and coming up with how much insurance that could potentially buy for the family. My question would be, kind of when do typically family offices and high net worth investors, come to you guys for advice, and do you usually work with their advisors? How does that typically work?
We're typically one of many on the team. I always joke and say because insurance should be the last item touched, we're sort of the last on the totem pole. But we integrate with the team, the wealth advisor, the CPA, the tax attorney. We want to understand from the wealth advisory planning team of the family office, what does their entire financial plan look like? And does the 18,000 make sense for insurance? And sometimes there are actually better ways to place the 18, but we like to use that as a starting point because of the liquidity that insurance provides for that estate tax bill, which is due 9 months later. So once the plan calls for insurance, if it calls for insurance, that's generally our starting point. And we're actually big proponents, we'll get to in a second, of actually using term insurance, which is, again, not something you generally hear from insurance planners.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Most insurance planners start with whole life and work backwards from there. So I really appreciate that comment. Go ahead. Let's look at this illustration.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. And we don't have anything really nice to say about whole life today. I apologize if there's any whole life advisors on the call, but so we'll just get that out of the way right at this point. So this is a guaranteed universal life contract. It's guaranteed. A word not allowed to be used that frequently, but we try to focus on vehicles that have as much guarantees as possible. And in this case here, with this 58 and 57-year-old couple, it provided just shy of $11 million. Their tax bill might be $20 million to their children, or it might be $6 million, but at least with their reverse solve technique, because they had over $100 million of total net worth, and the wealth advisory team needed that full 27 to 28 of exemption for other planning concepts. This is what we were left with to work with. There's at least going to be 11 million of liquidity. And if the bill ends up being 5 million, then there's an extra close to 6 million of additional wealth transfer. It's not just there for estate tax. That's the goal. Hopefully it doesn't always need to be used for that, and it just enhances future generational wealth. At 87, 88 into the client's 100, you see that the tax-free guaranteed IRR on this particular planning concept is still very strong.